Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, concrete products company Kilsaran is certainly operating within an industry where sustainability has now become a necessity. Kilsaran's Group Head of Innovation and Sustainability, Ken Mulkerrins, now explains how it is adapting to a changing environment. Ken, you might start the interview by telling us about Kilsaran and the services which it provides.
Good morning, Carl. Yeah, so Kilsaran is still a family-run company. It was founded in 1964 by the late Patrick McKeown in the village of Kilsaran in County Louth, hence the name. So we're a building materials company, supplying ready-mix concrete blocks, paving, K-Pro dry products, precast concrete, asphalt products.
Talk to us about the growth that the business has experienced over the years and how it achieved that.
Yeah, so since 1964, the family have added more and more businesses to the business of Kilsaran, whether that be through purchases or through acquisitions. So as I said, in 1964 we started, then we went and we had our concrete plants and our asphalt plants shortly afterwards. Then in around 2006 we got into our concrete paving and our K-Pro products. And then in 2014 we acquired the Cemex properties, and that's how we really kind of started to branch out across the country.
And who are your clients?
So our clients are vast and wide-ranging. They go from everything from the retail buyer that would come in to buy some paving and that for our back garden. But we'd also supply a lot of the largest building contractors in the country, the likes of your SIS, your Walls Construction, BAM, and so on and so forth.
You are the head of innovation and sustainability with Kilsaran, and of course environmental concerns and sustainability are top of the agenda within the construction sector today. What's driving that?
The construction sector and the cement sector attribute to about 7% of all global emissions. So I think that's what's really putting the focus on it. That's not to say that we really do need these products. There's a huge shortage of housing in the country. There's a huge shortage of infrastructure, and these products are needed. So I think what's going to drive it is that people are going to want these products, and they're really going to want them, at a lower carbon product that will give them lower emissions in their overall projects.
Something that has been synonymous with the construction sector over the years are declarations of performance, but now we see the emergence of environmental product declarations. Talk to us about those.
Yes, so environmental product declarations, or EPDs as they're kind of commonly known, really is a verified, if you like, checklist of the associated emissions that are attributed to you producing any of your products. So for us, we'd have EPDs for our concrete, we'd have EPDs for our blocks, we'd have EPDs for our K-Pro products. And basically what the people can do and what the designers can do at the design stage of a project is they can look at them EPDs, they can see the total amount of emissions that are associated with that product, and then they can use that in a calculation for the overall emissions for a project that they're working on.
There's a lot of talk about the European Green Deal and green procurement as well within the construction sector. How is that impacting you?
Yes, it's impacting us quite a bit, and I do foresee that it will even more so in the future. To put it kind of in simple terms, the cost of credit and the cost of capital to put into these projects and these building projects will really be dependent on the associated emissions within. So if a purchaser or a client or a shareholder or a stakeholder can build, construct, design lower emitting carbon buildings or projects, the cost of their capital and the cost of their credit will be cheaper. So while some of these products may be slightly more expensive than traditional ones, overall there'll be a saving there. It's an emphasis on driving those emissions down and trying to get Ireland to meet its targets.
While many of your clients are main contractors, lots of their clients are foreign direct investment companies like multinationals. What's the approach that's been taken by the multinational sector in this regard today?
The multinationals definitely are driving it, and we see that for projects that we're involved in that have a foreign investment. When the specification comes in for giving products or services, we can definitely see on that. Historically, you'd be talking about cement content, or you'd be talking about the performance of a given product or the price. Very much so now what we're seeing on these specifications is the CO2 content and the total embodied carbon content, which is required at the specification stage, even while jobs are going out to tender.
So on that basis, what is Kilsaran's approach to innovation?
In terms of innovation, we've kind of always seen ourselves as being, at the forefront of it. As back as early as 2001, we were at the height of innovation, with the first ones in Ireland to put ground granulated blast furnace slag into concrete to reduce its emissions. So it's not new to us. But more recently, in 2022, we set aside funding and initiatives for a whole new research and innovation team. This team is headed up by myself also, but it's standalone to the day-to-day running of the business. And what this team does, from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, is they work tirelessly in our labs to innovate new products and to try and lower or decarbonise the products that we have already.
Now, I believe that you have a team of almost 20 people working within that innovation lab. Talk to us about the work that goes on in there.
They're solely looking at, the materials we have and that are available at our disposal, the products that we currently have, and trying to take carbon out of them or trying to make them more user-friendly, and then looking at new products or new ways of construction and new ways of building. So I mentioned that, we have precast side to our business. Modular building and off-site construction is becoming more and more popular. So we're looking at, an absolute plethora of different initiatives, everything from low carbon concrete, zero cement mixes, all this type of stuff, and products that we can get the same performance of, but using less materials to try and save on natural resources.
And of course, the demand for housing units today far exceeds the supply. I know that there's some regulatory challenges with planning, but from a concrete perspective, is that an obstacle in any way at this moment in time?
Unlike the UK, which are struggling for raw materials and aggregates, we still have a good supply here. But there is regulatory requirements and planning that does, I suppose, maybe slow down that process. And certainly when we look at newer innovative products and changing products, where I see the issue being is for legislation and regulations to kind of keep up with the level of innovation. So changes to the building regs and standards to accommodate the more use of recycled aggregates, lower carbon cements, and so on and so forth.
So what changes are we going to see in that respect?
The buildings, the infrastructure themselves, they're going to have to be more durable. The design and the design guides and the building regs and everything that we work off today and that engineers work off today when they're designing buildings is all really based on historical data and data that was gathered when we weren't in this crisis. We're very much in a crisis now, and we can't afford to kind of rest on our laurels and wait for regulations and for standards to kind of catch up. These have to be kind of done now, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Paris Agreement and that 192 companies signed up to try and limit global warming to 1.5 degrees pre-industrial levels. Currently today, as of this morning, Europe is at 2.3 degrees Celsius. So we're way off our targets. And while all this innovation is going on across universities and manufacturers across Ireland and across Europe, if the regulations don't allow us to do what we need to do, then that 2.3 is just going to keep on growing and we're going to miss every target that we try to set. So
once Kilsaran innovate a particular product, how open-minded are the regulators and the specifiers to change?
It really depends. I'm not giving you a short answer, Karl, but it really depends on the level of complexity within that product or how new it is. There are ways and there are schemes out there to try and bring new products on, the likes of agreement certs and the like, where you mightn't necessarily have a particular product standard or regulation for a product. The likes of agreement certification puts the product through a rigorous regime of testing and gives a level of comfort to specifiers and to customers. So there are avenues that we can use. But again, the regulations and the standards that we are using today will need to be updated and need to be brought, I suppose, in line with what we need. And when I say we, I'm not talking about Kilsaran, I'm talking about the construction industry, and I'm talking about Ireland being able to, create more infrastructure and create more buildings and do so in a meaningful way that's going to really impact in a positive way our climate. So it's really, for everybody to get around the same table and for the whole thing to take speed at the same time.
And Ken, Kilsaran recently invested in 2 electric concrete trucks. Provide us with an insight into these vehicles.
Yeah, so they're a Volvo FM electric concrete mixer truck. So for people that don't know, it's a little bit different than a cement truck. A concrete truck is one that has a big bottle on the back of it that you'll see turning as it's driving down the road, so it's mixing the concrete in the back. So the two trucks that we bought are the first of their kind across Ireland and the UK. Very much a kind of a leap into the unknown. We don't have an awful lot of data because they're not being used in Ireland or the UK. So what we did was we collaborated with Volvo and we gave them 6 months of our logistical data, and we fed that into one of their simulator tools, and we mapped out routes across our cities in Ireland, and particularly Dublin, where we have two concrete plants in the city centre. And after kind of initial trials and desktop studies, it was thought that it was feasible to do this, and that we might get somewhere in the region of 300 kilometres of a range on a charge. So each truck has 5 batteries, which gives it a power of about 450 kilowatts. So on paper, they'll do about 300 kilometres per charge, but that's really dependent on the weight of the concrete being carried.
And based on having those vehicles out on the road now for 1 week and having the data to go with that, is it going to work out more expensive to run those trucks than their diesel equivalent?
At the moment, we do not think so. We don't think so. So again, we only have kind of a week of real data, if you like. So our plan is to pilot these trucks in this plant for the next 12 months. And then we'll collate all that data, and we'll sit down again with our supplier, and we can see then where we can add more electric trucks across the country. They do seem to work best, and the models would suggest that they work best, obviously, within a kind of an urban setting.
And finally, Ken, what's on your roadmap over the next 12 months in terms of more innovative sustainability-related projects?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things at a high level. We're really looking at our fuel usage and to try and not be as demanding on fossil fuels and the need for fossil fuels. We're looking at this year, especially, we're looking at every bit of roof space we have, and the board have signed off and agreed that where it's applicable and where we can use it, every bit of roof space that we have on our 26 locations, we're going to look at PV solar panel. So they'll be put on to give us a huge input there from a solar energy perspective. As I said, we would use in our asphalt plants. We would look at a lot of diesel there to dry our sands. We're going to look at swapping them out for LPG burners straight away. And we know from historical data in our dry products division that if we can swap out our dryers from diesel to LPG, we'll cut emissions by about 45% overnight.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Ken Mulkerrins from Kilsaran, and I'd like to thank Ken for sharing the company's proactive approach to both innovation and sustainability.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.